Yeah, I was impressed with the Ironman. In a former life, I used to race them.
It was, I say, it's the worst decision I've ever made in my life because I did it to. My wife didn't think I could do it, and so we saw the billboard. Ironman is coming to Virginia, and I said, "Wow, it would be cool to do it one day." And she said, "You would never." And then that night, I signed up, and then I had to follow up with training and things, and then, whew, man, that was hard. And with two young kids, whew,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
we called those a great idea at the time. Yeah, I remember every single one I've done just being jealous of the slightly overweight person drinking a beer, eating pizza, watching us run by.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never wanted to be so fit in my life and wanted to be that person.
That's right. That's right. I can relate. Yep.
So
I can relate. Awesome.
nice. But I love that the motivator to it, because I hopefully my wife doesn't hear this one, but her telling me I can't do something is a pretty darn good reason why I'm going to do it.
Yep. That's yeah, it's and John talks about the types of fuel, and that one burns fast. It doesn't last very long, proving my wife wrong, but if the goal is short term, then I think it could work.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Definitely. Well, before we jump into to our discussion, really excited to have you on, and I'm when I reached out a couple months ago and invited you on, and you said yes. I was a little kid in the candy store. So I think you know the background. We heard John at the Vision Source Exchange, our national meeting last year, when he talked about soundtracks, and a really good friend of mine, Dr. Ted McElroy, had been introduced to John, and he was instrumental in helping to bring him to that meeting. I heard it and immediately bought the book. Well, bought the audiobook because I listen. I don't like reading books. I like listening to them. And then Ted and I talked about it when All It Takes Is a Goal came out. Ted and I couldn't wait to share our discussion back and forth, and had a great talk. We've had lots of fun talks with colleagues, so much so that John's coming back again to our national meeting, and even more excited about that.
Yeah.
Because I know what we're getting this time, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Joined the Guaranteed Goals Community.
Nice.
Just to just immerse myself more into all of you, and you are the cruise director of that community. And I've only been on one cruise, but the cruise director was awesome, and you have been here. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you're at now.
So I am from Brazil originally. I played every sport my entire life, but towards middle school, focused in on tennis. I had a family of athletes. My mother was a pro swimmer. My dad played soccer. My uncle was a water polo athlete and played tennis. And my grandfather on my mom's side played tennis. And so when I was growing up, they just put me in tennis lessons on a neighborhood court. And then at 7 years old, the coach came to my family and said, "Look, I think I've maxed out all that I can teach Gian." And so my uncle had a contact with truly the best tennis coach in Brazil. He was actually the coach of the national team, and he was best friends with him. And he said, "Hey, we could bring him to the academy." And the coach at the time, he only gave lessons to junior players in the afternoon, because in the mornings, if you know any country club or tennis academy, it's full of ladies in the morning. And so, but my schooling until I got to middle school was in the afternoons, and so I had my mornings off. And so the coach said, "If you want to bring him at 7 a.m., I'll give him a lesson from 7 to 8 before the ladies come for their lessons." And my family jumped in and said, "Sure, we'll do it." So from 7 to 12 years old, I was getting in a car about 6 in the morning, driving 45 minutes, doing a 1-hour lesson, and then driving 45 minutes home again, just to have a lesson twice a week with the best coach in the country. Yeah. And so I stayed with him for close to 11, 12 years until I came to college. I did a year of high school in Connecticut. My mother sold her car so she could afford sending me to Connecticut for a year to do high school, because my goal was always to play college tennis. And so she said, why don't we pay for a year for you to go and see if you actually like America? And then we can decide. So I said, sure. The moment I landed in America, I was like, yes, I want to come to college in America. But yeah, I did a year of high school in Connecticut, and then went back to Brazil, finished my high school, and then got recruited to play college tennis at a D1 institution, and did that for 4 years. Found my wife there. We got married right after graduating, and then the college offered me a full-time position to be the assistant women's tennis coach. So I got into women's ministry, I would call it, in very hard. I got married and I was coaching 10 to 12 women every year. And so that was a shock to my system that only played individual male tennis tennis for the majority of my life. And so that was fun. That was a cool experience. I did that for 10 years. And if you know anything about college sports, especially at D1, we travel like crazy. So I was gone almost 100 nights a year,
Wow.
just with tennis matches and then recruiting and professional development and all those things. And I started having kids. And so 2021 felt like my kids were 4 and 2 at the time. I thought I probably need to spend a little bit more time at home. My parents were divorced when I was 5. And so I never had my dad at home with me full time. I would go to him every other weekend. And I just thought it would be great for her, my kids to have their dad at home a little bit more often. And so I transitioned out, and my college actually created a position of director of tennis. And so now I oversee both tennis programs, their facilities, their operations, food, equipment, everything. And during that transition, John came to speak at my university. We actually, coincidentally, we read soundtracks as a team.
Okay.
And he comes to speak, and I get to just drive him back and forth from the hotel to the speech and back, So I have maybe a 30-minute interaction total with John. And the following spring of 22, I get an email from John's assistant saying, hey, John is looking for a part-time social media coordinator. And you work in a college. There's lots of young people that know social media. Can you just find somebody, can you give us some options or people who'll be interested in the job? And so I asked everyone around. I asked even my sister-in-law who works in social media, and everybody said, no, not interested. So I told my wife, I said, I'm going to apply. And my wife's reply is, because she's the driver of every decision I make. She said, why would they hire you? These were her real words. Why would they hire you? You only post pictures of food, And I was like, valid question, but nobody seems to be interested. So I'm just going to apply. So I put my resume out there, and I went through probably 7 interviews before I even got to interview with John, And so my favorite memory of all that is right after John came to speak was Halloween, and we had just written soundtracks. So I dressed as John for Halloween. I put the sweater, and I dyed my hair white. I believe that's my picture. Maybe that's my picture on the GGC, on the Guaranteed Goals Community. That might be my picture. And I put a microphone in my ear, and so I dressed up as John. I carried the soundtracks book around. But I'm in the last interview with John, his HR guy, and his HR guy is grilling me because I was not prepared for that job, like classically prepared. I did not go to school for social media. I had a physical education degree, a master's in education, and I literally only took pictures of food. And so his HR guy is like, you understand that you're going to be John's voice out there in the social media world? And I said, yes, I understand. I understand that. And then John pitches in and says, he's already dressed like me. Being my voice is not gonna, is not gonna be that difficult. And so I thought that was a cool moment there. But yeah, they hired me, and 6 months into my job as a social media coordinator, so I was just in charge of creating content from his quotes, and he started sending me reels, so I'll put captions and do all of that and
Yep.
schedule it for him. 6 months into it, he comes up with the idea of a community. And we're like, oh, that's exciting. There's lots of online communities, but how you're going to set yourself up, set yourself apart from all these other online communities. And he said, well, I want to just have the Home Depot of goals. And that's where the Guaranteed Goals Community came in, where it doesn't matter what your goal is, you will find a tool like Home Depot that will help you in it. And then he followed up that sentence with, and I want you to be inside this community constantly shepherding people along. Since I was a coach, that was actually my stronghold. I actually had experience in that, at least, and so that was so much fun. So we kicked it off in January of 2023, and it's just been an awesome journey. Just seeing people transform their lives had been incredible. My favorite definition of coach is from Stagecoach, which is also a great Western movie, but is taking important people from where they are to where they want to go.
I like that.
And that has always stuck with me during my college coaching career, but now as a GGC in there, is just helping people. I'm not doing the work for them. I'm just coaching them, get to where they want to go. If they want to lose 15 pounds, if they want to write their next book, if they want to run a marathon, if they want to, we got a vegan food truck that, that somebody just wanted to start a vegan food truck. Somebody else wants to train their miniature horses for shows. And it's like all of these people are inside the same community, which never existed, like a lot of the other communities are focused on one goal. Like there's a losing weight goal, or there's a runners club or whatever. And so it's been awesome to be inside the Guaranteed Goals community. It's been so awesome.
It's been a lot of fun to see and be a part of that community. And what struck me as interesting first, to your point, tons of goals, and my thought was, I don't relate to any of these people. Right? I don't want to do any of these things. But what was neat, and it was, everybody was following the same steps to get to wherever they wanted to go. So the journey was similar. The end was different because everybody has different goals, but the steps to get there all seem to be very, very similar. And which was a huge aha moment for me. Because I was I have big goals, and then I just put my head down and run head first into the wall until the wall breaks, and then I got
that's me.
Yeah. So hence the Iron Man, right?
That's right. That's right.
But there's got to be a better way to do that, and it was hard to find that way without the framework and the structure that John spelled out in the book, but then you saw play out in real life through the community.
And I read a lot of books. I probably average a book a week, and a lot of those, you can call it self-help books, are so much just blabber. Like there's no, there's not much sustenance to it. But what I noticed with John's books before I even worked with him was he actually shared stories of real people, first of all, and then now inside the Guaranteed Goals community, I get to meet those people, like there's a guy named David in the Guaranteed Goals community. He was in the military. He deserted the military, right? And went to jail for it, was a drug dealer, went to jail. Now he's a beauty school, director. Like the stories that inside the GDC are just ridiculous. Like you can't make this stuff up, No. And we have the other guy who ran his first marathon, and then he has a side business as a wasp remover guy. And then he also, because he likes that, he has makes his own honey. And that's his other side business. So like all this conglomeration of people just working together, which as a tennis player, I never really had a team around me until I came to college to play college tennis. But to see the power of community and how much better that is in pursuing your goals in community, it's been truly life-changing. It's been awesome.
That's interesting you bring up community. we met you and John through the Vision Source family and community, and which John had a subsequent podcast about his experience talking to a bunch of optometrists, and we were all super giddy because we know he's talking about us, and we were there. The what is it about community that helps people achieve their goals? Because achieving your goal is still an individual process. You've got to do the work, right? But what is it? What's the secret sauce of a community that helps me better get from point A to point B?
Yeah, I think it has to do with the aspect of you looking at someone else and being like, wow, if he did it, I can do it. You have that mentality. As long as you don't have the mentality, and you have to work on your soundtracks, right? And your broken soundtracks that John talks about. But if you can see a person of your same age or same life stage or whatever, and he or she is doing that, and you want to get there, you at least know it's possible, right? And then you get to pick the brain of that person. You get to ask that person questions, and how do you actually do it? You have 2 kids, I have 2 kids. Like, you have a full-time job, I have a full-time job. How do you still write a book? And then you can have real answers. Now, there's also the thing of you can also help somebody who is trying to get to where you are, right? So the moment you start teaching someone else, you actually learn more. Like you learn, because now you're breaking it down into easier steps for them to get to where you got. And so that can help you with a future goal. And I think what John has been able to do is before he even opened an official community, his environment, his universe, like he has been able to foster trust, vulnerability, where if you just go into the GDC, you just see people just being very vulnerable with their struggles, with their successes. And that is just awesome to see. And as a single tennis player, for most of my entire life, I never had that. And so I only wish I was surrounded by more people that I could pick their brains, could compete against, or just learn from, instead of just my coach. That would probably skyrocket my career a little bit more.
Oh, absolutely. It's being vulnerable is tough. And somebody told me once that was, we don't like to get our egos hit. And I don't think it's an ego issue. I think it's afraid of others seeing us how we sometimes see ourselves.
Yep.
And what that feeling's going to be like. But once you get past it and you realize that nobody's really looking at you because they're all worried about how you're going to look at them.
Yeah.
It's incredibly freeing. And then you can become vulnerable, realizing that others have the same vulnerabilities. And help each other out. No, I love that a lot.
Yeah.
What have been as the cruise director of the community, what have you seen have been the typical challenges people face just getting started towards their goal?
Yeah. I think the first one is the broken soundtracks, right? Those I can't do it. My family never did it, so that means that I can't do it either. Those broken soundtracks of, oh, I'm too old to start on this. We just had a woman post a few months ago and said, hey, I'm 59 years old. Is it too late for me to start a business? And everyone at the bottom was like, no. You go. Like, you start a business right now. Like,
Yeah.
So, and those thoughts, probably in her head and hundreds of others' heads. And no, you just need a community in there to say, no, go for it. Like, you can do it. But I always caution people with possibility and probability. The difference between possibility and probability, right? So is it possible for me to hike Mount Everest? Yes, it is possible, right? Is it probable? Not right now, right? I have to work towards those things. And so I think what John does in his the methodology that he's come up with, it makes the possibilities more probable, right?
Yep.
So person comes into the community and says, this year I want to write a book. Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No, because 96% of Americans say they want to write a book. Only 2% have a book published, right? So there's a massive gap right there, right? So John's methodology and the lessons he teaches and the community aspect makes it so that that person can take steps forwards towards writing her book and make the possible more probable. And so I love just being a part of it and just being able to watch it. But at the same time, I'm not just there just to guide people through it. I'm living it too, right? Right now, I'm training for a 50-mile race, an ultra marathon, right? So I'm there. I'm picking the brain of some people who have done it in the past, and helping others who, man, I've just sit on my couch. How do I even run a 5K?
Yep.
It's like, yes, you can do it. Here's the steps I took to run my first 5K. Because after college, there was probably an 8-year gap there where I did not want to do any physical activity because I was just so drained and my body was so broken that I didn't want to do anything. And so I did have to leave being a couch potato to now training for an ultra marathon. And so if you told me 4 years ago that I was going to be an Ironman and running ultra marathons, I would be like, no, you're kidding. That is a joke. So it's just been really fun to see that progress in myself as well as in so many other people.
I like that, making the possible more probable.
Yeah.
And what really gravitated me towards John, and I'm going to ask you if he's really like what he's really like, when the cameras are off, because I imagine he's just, the kind of fun, silly, goofball, great guy to have a beer with. What attracted me to him was, to your point, a lot of other business books and whatnot, genius people, and I love what they said, but I couldn't relate.
Yep.
It was either too theoretical, it was too warm and fuzzy, that the speakers were too polished.
Yeah.
Right? I couldn't relate. The only other one I'd related to before I found John's book was, I believe the book's Relentless by Michael Jordan's trainer. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now.
Right? Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
And the book's kind of brutally honest. But I could relate to that and go, okay, I got it. I appreciated that. But I struggled finding something else until I heard John talk and then read his books, because I said, okay, that's me, right? I don't know what I want out of life. Like, I don't have a genuine why that I wake up for every morning. And, the birds aren't singing to me and rainbows aren't everywhere. Like, it's just, I wake up and the dogs are being punks and my kids don't wake up and we're running late to school. And I mean, they're wonderful. I don't mean to knock them, but it's life, right? It never goes how we plan. And I just needed to find baby steps. And in fact, in our office last year, I took all of my monthly goals for the team and broke them down to daily goals, and devised a term called winning the day. Just here's what the goal is that day. And then I read All It Takes the Goal and said, wow, he put words behind the concept that I had kind of figured out, but then put in the missing little pieces and blocks that I had. So our whole team is actually reading All It Takes the Goal this year. We have a book every year.
That's awesome.
That I build as a team, because I believe it's my job to build people. I mean, I'm an optometrist. I take care of eyes, but as a business owner, my people take care of our patients, and my job is to build them.
Yep.
And if I'm not helping them, they're not helping themselves, and then they can't help others.
Yeah.
So it's neat to see all the little pieces come into play.
Yeah, definitely. And go back to what John is like behind, when the cameras are not on, he's the same person. Like, he is truly the same person. Ever from the moment I picked him up in my car, when I was just, worshiping him from afar, and I was like, holy cow, I got John Acuff in my car, and he walks, I have a minivan because I have 2 kids, and he jumps in the minivan and he looks back and sees the 2 car seats and he says, do you have kids? I said, yes, I have, He was like, oof. Yeah, that would have been awkward if you didn't have any kids, That
That's funny.
But he truly does what he preaches. And even, 2 weeks ago, they got a massive snowstorm in Nashville. Mm-hmm. And so, he's now inside the community. He's updating everybody on his goals, right?
Yep.
And I saw that he didn't run any miles outside in that week. So I texted him, I said, hey, you're slowing down. What's going on? And he was like, man, we just got 8 inches of snow. Do you think I'm going to go out and run in the snow? And it was like, do you think I'm David Goggins or something? So, like, he's normal, like he's, And I tell my wife, I'm like, I'm right in the middle of the spectrum between John Acuff and David Goggins. Like, I'm a little crazier than John. I will still probably go and run in the snow, but I'm not David Goggins, So that's, it's just been fun to see because I guess, they always say never meet your heroes because they'll always disappoint you,
Right.
and with John, it was never that. He was always so gracious, always. And just like you do with your team, he's always pouring into us, always, sending thank you notes and leading those meetings well. Always asking, how can I make your jobs easier? And we're like, no, 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 that's not how it works. We make your job easier, John. Like, that's why you hired us,
Yeah.
But he's always thinking on ways that he can serve us as well, which is really, really neat.
That is neat. And lots of the listeners to the podcast are independent optometry owners. They own their own practices, right? The group that that John's going to come speak with. How does John structure that? How does he engage with you guys? Is it a scheduled, weekly meeting? Is it very random? Like, what do those structures look like?
Yeah. So we have one scheduled meeting every week, where our team is maybe 6 people. So it's not a massive team, but the amount of stuff that we do, it's like he's able to hire some high level people. And so we have a 1-hour meeting. That's it. And we hash it out, everything that needs to happen within the next week, and then go on to things that maybe are coming up that we just need to be aware of. And then I have a meeting with him 30 minutes every week where we just talk more on the social media side, community aspect of things, where maybe our marketing guy doesn't need to know about, but that I can just report to John, and we don't waste that team meeting going over things that only 2 people need to be aware of. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And I think that is one of the best things that we can do. I think if I've been in so many meetings where there's 10, 15 people in this room, but only 2 people are talking. And I'm like, I'm just wasting my time here. Yeah. There's no point. You know what I'm saying? Like, or it's a meeting where it's like, now you give me a 2-minute report. Now you give me a 2-minute report. Now you give me a 2-minute report. And then that's it. Like, there's no interaction. So that could also have been just an email thread. Everybody just emails you whatever, you know what I'm saying? Yep. So there's no dialogue. There's nothing there. So why do we even have a meeting, So it's been great to see that aspect of it. And I have implemented that meeting strategy into my job here at the college as well, with my coaches and my staff that I manage now, which, yeah, it's been great. So that's the paces of the meeting. We don't have much meetings, but we leave those meetings know exactly what's expected of us for the next 7 days until we meet again. What are things that need to be delivered by then? And then if, sometimes things don't get delivered, and then we just come back again and say, do you need the help from somebody else? Yeah. Like, does anybody else need to step in and help you? Or no, maybe your kid just got sick for 3 days and you just had to stay home or whatever. Right. So it's been that the meeting pace and rhythm has just been great with John.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
The other thing that struck me with John, because now I've become a fanboy, and so I listen to his podcasts, and I try to be on, all the live events. Usually I end up having to watch the recordings of them. But what struck me initially as an odd at first, and then I think I realized the genius of it is, it seems with John, what he's sharing in his message is very much blocking and tackling, right? We're not throwing Hail Marys. He's not talking about, that one-off crazy play that's going to win the game or whatnot, but he breaks down the goal steps, and every time he's giving a new podcast or whatnot, all the steps are there, and he is just presenting them in a slightly different way. I think because we need to hear things multiple times, but it was really interesting to me. As an athlete, I grew up playing soccer and wrestling, right? You practice the crazy stuff every now and then, but you're not going to win a game off a bicycle kick, right?
Correct.
You win the game off collecting the ball, dribbling, making the right pass, making the right run. It's basics. And so I've really been interested in. It's been interesting watching John and all his different communication platforms really rely on the basics to get his message across, and I think that's part of his secret sauce. In the past, our focus revolved around prescribing MacuHealth or MacuHealth Plus to patients at risk of macular degeneration while also recommending it to collegiate and professional athletes for enhanced contrast sensitivity in sports performance. However, this year's introduction of the Life Meter has been a game changer. The Life Meter revealed a concerning truth. Many of my patients have alarmingly low skin carotenoid levels, indicating potential deficiencies in essential body tissues like the retina and brain. Supported by over 30 peer-reviewed publications, Life Meter's accuracy, consistency, and effectiveness has been demonstrated across 2,000 subjects with diverse backgrounds. With this newfound insight, I can now have meaningful conversations about carotenoid levels with all of my patients, even those who may seem outwardly healthy. To learn more about this empowering technology, feel free to contact your MacuHealth representative or click on the link in the show notes. Together, let's optimize patient care and elevate their well-being. As doctors of optometry, we cannot do what we do without our team. And para-optometrics are allied health professionals who assist us in providing the highest level of vision care to our patients. We at iCode Education want to support you and your team in the para-optometric certification process, which is why not only do we have resources available, training resources available for your team to help prepare them for the test, but we also have a discount code specifically for the Aaron Werner podcast listeners, which gives you $100 off for 12 months. So you can use the code AWP 2024, that's AWP 2024, to get $100 off for a 12 months code. We'll put the link in the show notes, but you can visit icodeeducation.com and search for para-optometric training to see what those courses are like.
Yeah, for sure. And I think he does a great job. And I think the biggest problem is most people listen to John. They love John's message, but the first step is just taking a little action. And that's what all it takes as a goal was, like, find that easy goal, right? That you can just take a little action. And I think a lot of people just don't even start. Because the moment you actually take a step towards whatever goal you're trying to achieve, then you'll see that that momentum will build. And then it becomes easier, and then it becomes easier. And I think if people just listen to John's message, and the next thought is, how can I implement that in my life? Even 1% of his message into my next day. And then you do that. Because that's what I did. I joke around, like, I read all of John's books, and I did like the free challenges, but I never bought any of his courses before, right? And I tell the staff, I was like, I got to work with John, and I actually never bought any of his stuff. But because he gives so much for free, if you actually just do what he tells you, like, your life will be different. Your life will be completely different. I went from leading a tennis team with 8 girls to now leading over 700 people inside this community in a span of 2 years, just because I was, every day just acting a little bit on a little bit of John's knowledge in there. And so it's just been awesome to see. And now, in the community, when he builds that, now it's the biggest shortcut in the world, that community, because you can still take action on the free stuff. And then you have this community where they're all doing it together. And so we have like brave hours once a month where we can just come on Zoom and we just commit to working on something. And that is massive. When you have that time blocked off and you're like, yeah, I've been procrastinating on cleaning out my drawers and I'm going to, declutter, but I never have time. Well, you do have time. You just don't make the time. And so having those brave hours have been cool too.
Oh, those are very cool. I love what you said, take action. Because I've read lots of different books. I think there's 3 of them that I've acted on, and 2 of them were John's. The soundtracks I really liked because that changed. I'd been talked to about incantations before. That sounded too Wiccan-y for me. But I can change a soundtrack, and then all it takes is a goal and just the best moments list.
Yeah.
So I tried to do it every morning, and I've kind of gotten into a little rhythm where I feel like I need to just sit and write and recenter myself. But it was amazing to me to learn more about who I was, because if I would have told you what drove me, it was wrong.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times we have interesting we have perceptions of ourselves that maybe aren't completely tied to reality. And I would have thought I was an achiever. I've run multiple Ironmans. I used to run marathons for fun. I was that crazy guy.
Oh,
But I never. But for me, it was all about relationships on my best moments list, and I wouldn't have guessed. I know people are
yeah,
important, but I would have thought I was much more of a self-driving person than the relationship, because I'm not a
yeah,
social dude. Um, and so I've worked with that. I've used that a little bit in speaking and coaching with the other offices.
yeah,
And I also found that motivating my team was different. We like to use money in business a lot to motivate people, and material things weren't on the top of anybody's list.
yeah,
And so instead of motivating with material things, motivating with experiences, it selfishly got me more.
yeah,
It got them to perform better for me, but the rewards were bigger for them, in a sense of they appreciated it.
yeah,
And I don't
sure.
think they would have known that if we hadn't have gone through that exercise.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree with the monetary thing is, if you're at a basic level of living, right?
Yeah.
A $1,000 bonus, you're gonna forget about that the moment you buy your new iPhone, and then it's gone or whatever, right? But man, going as a group to this thing, like that memory will stick with you for months, years, and
Oh
that will
yeah.
be a part of your best moments list, right? So I think I did that too, and mine had very little objects, and so when that happened and my wife did it and she had very little objects, we're like, why do we have so much crap in this house then? Like, what's the point,
Yeah.
And so we just got rid of a ton of stuff, a ton. And so we're not minimalists, but we're going towards that just because we have 2 young kids, so we have a lot of stuff
Oh
laying
yeah.
around still. But yeah, it was a great exercise, a mental health exercise of just shedding all of that weight of just stuff around the house that we thought we needed that we actually didn't, and it didn't make us happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's that exercise. When I first read it, um, because one of my tasks was to track down every human being that John mentions in that book and ask for permission to share that story in the book.
Yep.
Like, so those names are real names. Like, those are real people that I had to go find and track down and be like, hey, Sam B from Idaho, you know, can you? And so those are real people. Those are real
That's cool.
people. Yeah. And that's just massive. When you see other people doing what you want to do and you have that close relationship with them, it's just been awesome. Yeah.
Yep. I love the real people aspect of it too, and I love that the stories he uses aren't so and so went from nothing to owning $1 billion company. I just those are
Correct.
cool
Yeah.
stories and they exist, but that's not me. Right? I don't even think
Yep.
I want that to be me. Right? I
Yeah.
want to be comfortable.
Yep.
Yeah, and I agree with you on the material things. I got to get over the hurdle of buying more shoes. I've got an affinity for
Do you
athletic
think
shoes.
that an optometrist thing? Shoes? Is that how you display your identity? Because that happens with soccer players all the time, right?
Yeah.
Because they have to wear the team uniform.
Yep.
So the only way they can display their identity and their whatever is through the soccer cleats.
Yeah.
Is that the same thing with optometrists, you think?
I don't know if it's through with optometrist. I think it was me just starting. I mean, having running so much that I had shoes that I ran through,
Okay.
and then I find I'm on a mission to find the best of everything. Like I want to
Ah,
find the best
yeah.
pair of travel pants. I want to find the best pair of shoes. But the problem is when I find it, well, I got to have it in multiple colors
Yeah.
because you can't just
Yeah,
have a pair of
obviously.
black pants. You need some
Yeah.
navy blue ones and maybe the olive green ones, right? And so Lululemon now is the beneficiary
Oof.
of
Okay.
my. They're great to travel with, right?
Yeah.
I hate slacks. I like
Yeah.
something that has a little
But
bit of
theirs are
stretch.
really good. Yep.
Yep. So I like theirs, and then On Cloud shoes have been my latest
Yeah.
guilty pleasure.
Yeah. I haven't dipped on the On Cloud shoes yet. I'm a big Roger Federer fan, tennis
Okay.
wise, right? And he got sponsored by On Cloud. He actually helped start it, basically.
Really?
Yeah, he was one of the early investors.
Okay.
And they made an actual tennis shoe from On. And so I haven't dipped my toe in that one yet. I'm still holding off to my Nikes that I get for free from college. So
Oh, there you go.
that's what I'm just holding on to that one. But yeah, the On shoes have been in my bucket list of purchases here.
Yeah, the idea of I can have a running shoe that I don't have to like stop and tie my laces
Yeah,
because
it's
I'm
tough.
also
Yeah.
lazy. Eh,
Well, you're just busy. You're just busy. You got no
yeah,
time. You
yeah.
got
I
no
just
time.
so and thankfully I have a wife who humors all of
There you
my
go.
quirks like that, right? And but yeah, no, my daughters are upset though. They're like, how come you have more Lululemon stuff than I do? And so then we have the talk about how dad has a job and he works hard.
That's right.
When
That's
you
right.
have a
Yeah.
job and you work hard, you can buy yourself,
Yes.
silly guilty pleasures like that as well.
That's right. For sure. Yeah.
Nice.
That was
So,
my thing with Legos. I see Lego
oh,
behind
I
you.
love, yeah. I
Yeah.
got
Right. And
I can't grow plants, but I can build
hey, that's
Lego
incredible. Yeah.
plants that don't
Yeah.
die.
That's the thing. And I started it probably 4 years ago. Just building them. It's just a good activity that I get to display it. Right. So
Yeah.
um but my kids are like, Dad, you got another Lego set for yourself, not us. I was like, well, I
Yeah.
work, I make money. Like if you saved your money that you get from your grandparents, and when you do chores and things, like you can buy yourself a Lego set, you know.
Yeah.
So it's teaching the kids that
Yeah.
it's been fun.
It is. And Legos are my stress. Or stress relief rather. It's the
Yeah,
one thing
yeah,
that helps me just turn my mind off and
yep,
somebody
yep,
else tells me what to do. I can follow the little instructions.
for sure.
I just bought the Starry Night
Oh, the picture
the
frame.
picture frame one. So I'm
Okay,
excited to get started on that.
are you gonna display on that in the office or at home?
Probably my home office. Yeah,
Nice,
and
nice.
I like to come where I'm at now. Just it's my little zen place.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. So no, they're fun. I still have all my Legos too from when I was a kid. So we've got the
Yeah.
giant, 40-gallon bucket that was I'm sure some of the pieces in there are worth some money if I dug through them, but they're more
Yep.
fun to watch my
For sure.
kids and my nephews all dig through and play with. So cool.
Awesome.
So before we wrap up, when somebody reaches out and says, "Hey, Gian, I know you're involved in this whole goal thing, right? Where do I start? Right?
Yeah.
What's I'm really good at failing at that second Friday in January.
Yep.
Which
Quitters Day. Yep.
Quitters Day, yep. And my goal this year was to not quit by Quitters Day.
There you
And
go.
we've made it. But what do you tell people when they say, "Hey, you're in this goal deal. Like, what should I start? What should I do?"
Yeah. I think a lot of people try to pursue goals that they're not passionate about, that it doesn't matter to them. And social media has a lot to do with that, because now these people are seen constantly, make $1 million or run a marathon or lose 20 pounds in a week or whatever it could be. It's like write your kid a note in their lunchbox every single day, like like handwritten notes to your kids in lunchbox, whatever. And we talked about it, but the best moments list is probably the best goal starter anybody could have, because it gives you an audit of what lights you up, what gives you joy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're choosing a goal just because your friends are doing it, or just because you see that's the next new thing, or whatever, that may carry you a little bit, but that might only take 2 weeks in January. Right? And so the best moments list will give you that basis of, ooh, and there's some commonalities here. Very few people that we've come across have all four buckets of the best moments list equal. Like
Yeah.
that's five, or yeah, doesn't exist, right? You have one preferred one, usually one or two, um, and then look up at those goals more and make those goals. We have a person in the community. Her major goal was to just go travel the world watching Bruce Springsteen concerts, because that's what she
Nice.
loves. She loves Bruce Springsteen. And so and she was a former mayor of like Minneapolis.
Wow.
Like, and so it's like, how do you break it all that down? How do you break down a goal, the goal to go watch Bruce Springsteen all over the world? And so I guess you have to save some money. So you have the financial goal in there, right?
Yep.
You have to book things, and you have to pack, and you have to figure out, all those little things. And so it's The best moments list is the best. It's in the title, right? It's the
Yep.
best tool that you can have that will give you some clarity on what matters most, because that's the first hurdle. If it matters to you, you're more willing to stick it out. Now, do you want to lose weight just because Instagram tells you want to lose weight, or is there a deeper thing? Did your doctor tell you need to lose weight? Then there's some urgency there. Um, those things. So the best moments list is the first thing, and then start with the easiest of goals. The easiest. It's I listened to a podcast today actually with a brain doctor, and he said the best thing people can do, like the best thing America can do to help with Alzheimer's is to move the people that never exercise to take 1,000 steps a day.
Yep.
That would be the biggest growth in diminishing Alzheimer's in America, is not for me and you who exercise constantly to go exercise an hour more, but to get the ones who never move to just move 1,000 steps. And you'll see that, 20 years from now, those people are going to be in better shape. Therefore, the whole country will be in better shape. And so finding whatever smallest goal you can have in order to move you towards that bigger goal will make sure that you stick it out. Because if you tell me all you got to do is walk 1,000 steps, that's easy. I can do that.
Yeah.
Right. And you just need to do that for a whole year. Perfect. I can do that. That's a good, easy goal. Now, do you want to move up? Sure. Let's do 5,000 steps every day. And then I can do that because I've been doing 1,000 steps for a year. Now I know it's already part of my schedule. Right.
Yep.
And so figuring all that out and then blocking the time. And John has probably 3 or 4 lessons inside the community just on productivity, blocking time, his calendar system, like the Kanban. Like we practice what we preach. The Kanban system of productivity with sticky notes and things. Like, it just helps. It just helps. Like it just being organized helps. As long as you don't keep the systems too complicated, that slows you down, right?
Right.
And then adapting those systems to you and to your lifestyle. That would just help you move forward, and you just gain a little bit of momentum, and then it just snowballs into something unstoppable, truly.
Yeah, that's cool. What I love when John talks about on the easy goals, right? You win the games when you set games are easier to win when you set the rules.
Yes.
So
you make the rules. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's we this year we're counting time, how much time we spend on our goals. That's a big community goal, and lots of people. Do I count this? Do I count when I do this? I was like, you count whatever you want. Like it's your goals. Like you make the rules. Like you can't lose. You can't lose when you make the rules.
Yeah. Well, you've got young kids. They've figured that out. Somewhere along the way we lost it
because
they
just
figure
change
out
the
how
rules
to win
constantly, so they never lose. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I'm curious. And I don't want to take this too long, but one of the things I recognized in myself when I went through the setting goals and going back and reviewing the goals, and John has his different the different games he plays, right, types. Most of my goals were all like work related, professional related, and which was surprising to me. I felt a little bad about myself that I the goals within my family, the goals within my friends, and let's call it personal satisfaction, not work related stuff, were really light. And do you see that frequently, or am I an oddity?
No, especially for men too. I think there's a little bit more of that. It's much easier to set work goals than, because those already somebody kind of telling you, or your business is telling you what the goals are, right? Setting personal goals, family goals requires a little vulnerability, and it's hard for us to look inside and to gain that self-awareness and be like, so like this year, my goal, and that was last year's goal, which didn't happen, but it was to teach my 6-year-old how to ride a bike without training wheels,
Cool.
But it just didn't happen. Like my other goal was to potty train my 4-year-old boy, which that's a mission right there, And so, but we got that one done, right? We got that one done, but my 6-year-old daughter sacrificed her goal so that I could at least get a potty trained child in the household, So this year, that's the goal. That's a family goal. And then, we trying to take a Sabbath, a full day off, as a family has been one of our family goals. And that's a struggle because now you technically are shortening your week by a day. And so that means that I can't extend my work hours into that day.
Yep.
So it requires more planning. We are trying to eat a more vegetarian diet, just so that we can treat our bodies a little bit better. And so that's been one of our goals. Is I check it off. Like, I think we have a goal of four days a week. We're only eating a vegetarian meal. And I'm not going full vegan because that's a little bit too much. I like my cheese,
Yeah.
but and eggs.
Yeah.
But like I'm tracking that. Like I'm tracking 4 times a week. Did we eat a full, vegetarian meals? Even the kids, and so figure out what, and I think it requires sitting down with the rest of your family, whoever it is. Like if you have kids, if you don't have kids, if you live with your parents, and figure out maybe 2 to 3 goals that you want to accomplish that year, and make those that truly matter, that you truly care about also. Because if you're just coming up with, oh, I want to go on more dates with my wife, well, that's so vague that, like last year you went on 1 date, this year all you got to do is 2, and you double that goal. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so like I just came back from a lunch date with my wife because we're trying one lunch date because we can't do dinner dates all the time because we got
Right.
2 young kids.
I
And
like that.
the babysitter game is too expensive nowadays, And so just we gotta do it while the kids are in school. And so we've been doing date breakfasts and date lunches. But track it. Like track it. And John has a goal of he's just gonna be kinder to his family. And he tracks how many times he could have been mean, but he actually answered with kindness. So he actually has a tracker that he marks it off how many times he's done that, And so you can track anything. You can turn anything into a game.
Yep.
And that makes it more fun. That makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah. Well, I like that vulnerability too, because to be able to say I could have been mean to you. I mean, who admits that they're mean to their family, right? We all are, but who admits that we do that? And
yeah.
But I think that's what ultimately what makes us better.
Yeah.
That's helps us become the parents and the siblings and the relationships that we want to have. No, I like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So very cool. Well, Gian, I really appreciate you taking time to chat with me, and I've been looking forward to this since you said let's do it probably 2 months ago now.
Yeah.
And no, really looking forward to continuing to engage in the community. Certainly having John come speak. Don't know if you're there, but if you are, would love to catch up over a beer and hear about your ultra marathon. That's the one goal that I had in my life that I don't know if I'll be able to hit. My knees are starting to hurt a little bit more on me.
Yeah. But hey, you start with an easy goal and you start that process all over again. You can make sure that that's guaranteed. For
guaranteed. Sure. Nice. We'll have to hear about your experience and then walk through it. So awesome. I will link to the community and certainly the book in the show notes. So anybody who's interested in engaging, please engage because ultimately we're all on this path to just do better and have more fun. And I think it all starts with all it takes is a goal.
So. That's right.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Thank you.